right, we'll call this meeting to order. If you can, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Wiki, would you lead us in prayer?
Sure. Lord, we just come to you tonight and we thank you for watching over us during the storms and for all the people that came to help us and all our city staff that just worked so hard for so long. Got to just pray that you would bless all those who work so hard to serve others. And I just also pray for us tonight that you would lead us and guide us as we talk about things regarding the city. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Roll call, City Clerk.
Commissioner Burr.
Here.
Commissioner Boring.
Here.
Commissioner Wiki.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Abs.
Here.
Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Vice Mayor Mullins.
Present.
Mayor Perez.
Here. All right, moving on with the agenda under presentations and proclamations. We got an interview set up for the interim city manager, Mr. Ken Rhodes.
So as directed, we contacted a number of individuals and Mr. Doug Terry was able to apply for the position. He's here tonight. You have a series of questions in front of you, so you can use those to use, or it can go as the commission decides. So,
Okay. You would, Mr. Terry, would you please come forward to the table? Welcome. So, as you know, we have a interim city manager position available. What we'll do tonight is ask you a series of questions. I'll start off with the initial question. I'm going to turn it over to the vice mayor, and I'm assuming we're going to go all the way down. If you want to ask a question, if not, we'll come back to Commissioner Miller, come this way, and then we can just continue to ask questions if you will, but I just want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to ask a question.
Mr. Reed, we typically have to ask the same set of questions for a group of applicants. Now, we don't have a group right now, but if we were to ask a question tonight that's not on the list of questions we have here, we would need to record that question and just make sure that we ask if there's a future interviewee, we just need to make sure and ask that question. Am I correct? I'm trying to remember from the last process.
So the last process, yes, the first round of interviews, everybody had essentially the same panel of questions and everybody was asked the same. So good practice would be if a different question that's not on the script, that the clerk just record it, and that if there happens to be another interview at the same level. And then as you recall, the second round of interviews were different questions. It could be more tailored. So,
Yes. Okay.
but yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yep.
We good? Mr. Terry, could I offer you a bottle of water? You good? Okay. All right, well, I'll start off with the first question. Welcome to the city of Sturgis. Tell us about yourself and tell us why you're applying for the position.
Well, not to be a smart aleck, I just got out of the nursing home. I just have a lot of energy left. I retired from a small town in Litchfield approximately 4 years ago. And I was going to go push gurneys at Henry Ford Hospital, and the phone rang. And it's been nonstop ever since. I had the pleasure of serving in back to Litchfield, Charlotte, Portland, Albion. I just finished out. And so I had known through some of my contacts that Sturgis might be looking for a interim city manager. And so I decided to display an interest. I live in Concord, which is about 60 miles from here, and I thought that it might be a great fit. Just from the standpoint that I know council has had their concerns, and I just wanted here to try and give you all of that experience that I've accumulated over the years.
Vice Mayor Mullins.
Welcome, Mr. Terry. How are you doing tonight?
Good.
Good, good. I had to look up when you said something about being released from retirement home kind of thing. That was a good one. I'm like, this guy's got a good sense of humor, so I like that. I guess you worked with other cities. You mentioned Portland as one of them.
Yes,
They have an electric utility, correct?
yes,
So you worked in similar sized cities as us with an electric
yes.
utility?
Hillsdale, I was an interim there in 15. I was sharing duties between Litchfield and Hillsdale. They were also an electric utility. But I had 5 years, just shy of 5 years experience at Consumers Energy. So I know a thing or two. I worked in cost of service, but I know a thing or two about generation, transmission, and distribution.
So you in no way feel like this is too big of a job for you and your experience?
I like utilities.
Yeah.
I've always liked utilities. I mean, I like all the departments, but, I've always, let me just explain a little bit about. Somebody years ago did a fine job here back in the 30s. They were thinking ahead about electricity. And from there, Sturgis built this wonderful reputation of having great generation. They have a dam, we grew to having turbines now. I know that Chris is looking at doing other things. We have solar panels, and we're looking at, bank of batteries. So we have a pretty good portfolio of generation. The thing is, we need to think about future generations. I was on the website the other night looking at turbines, and to put in a 5-lateral turbine would run about $40 million in today's dollars. So how do you pay for that? And the thing is, we have to be competitive as a utility, not to put too much burden on our citizens. We have to show that we're saving, that we're making strategic decisions as far as that goes, and making sure that those decisions are gonna serve our citizens well into the future. So it's a balance of both residential, commercial, and industrial.
You mentioned some of the sources that we have. You are aware of our moving into natural gas as well?
Yes.
I don't have any other questions, but thank you.
I'm just curious, for your other interim positions, what did it look like on the beginning, like the startup of each place? Like, did you have a city manager in place that kind of like passed things off to you, or what did that look like?
Okay. Over the years, I've gained a reputation of helping where there's problems. I want to be sensitive about this. One of the cities, there's a serious allegation made against the city manager. And the individual contacted the same legal firm as the MSU girls had hired. And so I was brought in to try and smooth the waters. I had a divided team when I got there. The city manager was very popular up to a point. Had a split staff. I had to bring people together, bring the council together, and try to bring the citizens together. The problem is that in these situations that require sensitivity, you're limited in what you can say and how you say it. And I guess maybe that's one of my strengths, is trying to bring calm, steady leadership at the helm. Maybe the gray hair helps.
Good evening, Mr. Terry.
Thank you.
That, I guess, would lead into that next question about your leadership style, and maybe add to that with the next one, characteristics of a great leader.
You know, over the years, you get the opportunity of witnessing people who do things right and people who do things wrong. And I think that I found that blend. Maybe it took 69 years to do that, but I think that we learn from others. The way I see my role here, and let me go back a little bit. A good manager just doesn't have people that work for him or her. A good manager works for their people. The way I view my position here is to assist the qualified department heads that you have in place, the great employees that you have in place, and to support them. Here's another thing, and I'm here to support you. I don't want to see you make mistakes. And so to speak, you have to be the devil in the details. That's what the manager has to do. I think under Andrew's leadership, I think we have been well served. I think that, in this particular case, and maturity always wins the day, always. And so I think that I would hope the council would expect that out of me. I would expect that the department heads would want to see that too, is that they would feel very comfortable in communicating any problems that I can help them with. That's my style. I have an open door. Citizens very rarely come into City Hall and pay us compliments.
Right.
So the idea is to de-escalate maybe some of those tensions, some of that anxiety, and try to get people to calm down. Let's talk about it. Let's see what we can do to help you. And maybe just explain to them that we have rules in place, maybe they're not aware of, but this is the way we do things.
Very good.
First experience with interim city manager. And I'm thinking about that, and you obviously have a lot of experience. We talked about the crisis management issues. I'm curious how you come in to that situation and say, evaluate things that may need immediate attention versus sort of hold on to the full time person.
Well, again, Sturgis has been blessed to have really good department head employees. I don't see where there would be anything that they couldn't handle. My job, obviously, is assisting them, you know, like, Chris, how can I help you? You know, we have the storm damage, how can I help you? What resources do you want me to call? Want me to call Hillsdale and see if we can borrow some equipment? What do you want me to do? How would you want me to help you? At the same time, I'm looking for Chris's feedback and saying, you know what, these are things that we have to do. And that's just that, I just use Chris as an example. That's all departments. You know, some people like Spartan, fire trucks, other people like Piers. I don't like Piers. Other people like Rosenbaum. So I want to work with public safety to help with their needs too.
Thank you.
I don't know if I answered you.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. In your opinion, what role should the administrator play in the community? For example, how do you deal with the Chamber of Commerce, surrounding governments, the school district, and subcomponent units? And the examples listed are what we have here: the Economic Development Corporation, our Downtown Development Authority, and the Land Development Finance Authority, LDFA.
Kind of unique because we sit right on the Indian board. You know, for a long time, it's not a well-kept secret. And you know this, Michigan, the state legislature is always toiled with this. With the state of Michigan contiguous to Indiana, there was always a little bit of tension that business could do business cheaper just down the road. We have to be competitive. And the way we do that is as a team. We have to create an environment where people want to be here. That means that we have to be competitive with our taxes, with our rates. We have to be business friendly. When people come in the door, we have to be welcoming and not, disenfranchise ourselves with that. We just need, it's common sense. They're coming in, they want to invest here. We want them to invest here. So I think that that's where we need to be. Now, I want to go back to something that was asked, and we want to talk about the chamber and the other groups. So as an interim city manager, I need to set a tone. One of the things that I need to do is assist you, all of council and staff, find the permanent replacement of a city manager in the next year. I see that as an equal role. Now, I know I have a lot of contacts out there. I deal with a lot of the same search firms that are looking for others. So I kind of know who's good and who's not. But one of my primary jobs, the way I see it, is to assist you finding the talent. I think that's critical going forward, because one thing, we will lose staff if they're not comfortable and they don't feel that they're in a stable environment. I need to do that with all of council, because let you know that I need you to come to me. If there's a problem, you come to me. I've watched your city council meetings, and please don't take offense to it, but I think resolutions just should not be sprung out. I think that they need to come to me and Ken, and we'll review them, maybe along with the city attorney. But that tells me that there's a bigger problem. There's a communication issue. This is where mature leadership comes into place. This is why you need to come to me if there's a problem. Maybe you need somebody to help resolve some of those issues, some of the anxiety, some of the unanswered questions. Allow me to help fix this. That's where I see, after all these years, that 42 years of experience, that's where I see where my value is helping communities get to be where they need to be. So I didn't want anybody to take offense to that, but I just think that that's a critical component of leadership. Being able to communicate and resolve issues with the leadership team.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Terry, for coming in, getting to the hot seat for interrogation, our interview. Appreciate it. Taking notes. I like a lot of what you said so far. My question would be, so what kind of experience you have or have had in training or motivating employees?
Well, we encourage all of our employees to take advantage of all continuing education. The MML is a good, the MTPA is good. Any and all of those things we should be taking advantage of. And the reason why is because we live in a world where people have to be certified now. I don't care if you're a journeyman or a wastewater tech or a water tech, everybody has to be certified. We want to do everything we can to get them educated. When people see that we're taking stock in their training, they become more loyal. And that's what we want. We want loyal employees. And the way we get that is by investing in those employees. I think that that's the key, is when they feel comfortable that management is listening and they're doing what they can to send them off to school and making sure their job is being done right and safely. At the end of the day, I think that that's what they want to see. I think, you know, the worst thing, and this is years ago, remember, you used to have the different types of management style, you know, theory X and theory Y, where, you know, you motivated people by being nice and too kind. And then there was theory X where you were standing over them with a whip. No. We have to be good communicators. You know, it's just like raising kids. You know, you have to tell your kids how much you love them as much as you get after them. I mean, and I think that that's pretty basic. I don't want to be called Mr. Terry. I want to be called Doug. I want them to feel comfortable talking. I want them to feel comfortable when they have a problem. And I want them to explain to me why we buy this backhoe as opposed to that backhoe. I just think that that's great. So I guess that's my theory on training employees.
Good one. Thank you very much.
Okay, Doug, what success have you had in obtaining grants for various projects in the city?
Oh. Well, and Mr. Miller will tell you this. A lot of grants come from both federal and then they trickle down to the state, and sometimes they, you know, they come from sources we don't even know. However, majority of them come from federal and state. We like taking advantage of the state grants rather than federal. Why? Because the federal government has made it so cumbersome to data making wages. All the different requirements they have in securing those grants, certified payrolls. I've never seen a grant yet that hasn't cost the city money. Think about it. Unless it's 100%. Most grants are 80-20 or 90-10, but you still have to come up with that match. That is one of the most difficult parts of writing for grants, is coming up with a match. So working with our treasurer, our controller, our council, where's that match going to come from? And at the same time, is that grant going to really benefit our city? We have to be careful. And so a lot of times, while they dangle that carrot in front of our face, are we going to get value of that? And then on top of that, what is that project going to cost us 10, 20, 30 years down the road? It's like in Litchfield, we had a swimming pool that was 50 years old and it had seen its better days. And we had lined ourselves up with a recreation grant to put in a splash pad. And council said, no. They did not want to bear the cost of extra water. And you're talking about a town of 1,200 people too. But they said, no, we're not going to pursue this because it's going to cost us too much. So again, you have to be selective in what grants you're going after. And it's a team effort because many grants are just pages and pages of requirements that both the state and federal government want. So now I will tell you this, with the airport, it's a little bit different. Michigan Aeronautics have been wonderful to work with, especially in securing navigation easements where you have a trapezoid type. They're great for helping us acquire land, making improvements, especially for instruments, things like that. but, MDOT's good to work with. I've had good luck with MDOT. Streetscapes, things like that. They're very good. The difference with Eagle, I think Eagle does a good job. The problem is that they have such turnover. And 1 week you're working with this person, another week you're working with somebody else. That's the experience I've run into. And then by the time you get the project done, 10 years from now, they change the requirements of discharge. So now you have to finance something else. And that's a problem. So we have to be, again, careful to think about our rate structure in the future to make sure that we're collecting enough money to pay for any contingencies coming up. All cities do that. It's a different world.
Thank you.
Okay, so everybody's has had an opportunity to ask a question. Now, if you have additional questions, as soon as one commissioner is done, we'll go ahead and continue asking questions and until we decide that we don't have any more. I do have a question for you. As a city manager, Doug, what has been the most the biggest accomplishment that you've had in your career? And what's been the worst part?
Okay. I think about this day and night, always go home. I'm sure you do too after council meetings. Gosh, I wish I would have voted this way, or I wish I would have said this, or, yeah. When I was a young man, I was the state's youngest city manager. And, I was in a small town called Standish. I was there for 13 years. And I had been in Standish, I want to say probably 5 years. Now, this is going back, this is when Jim Blanchard was governor. And there was this huge movement to build prisons in the state of Michigan. And we did. We borrowed, the state of Michigan borrowed money like you couldn't believe. And they built prisons all over the place. So with the city attorney's help and a few others, we wrote a letter to the Department of Corrections. They came down and they said, Standish, right off the I-75? Sure. And at that time, they were desperate. They were renting farm fields, putting concertina wire around and bringing in portable classrooms. There was a movement back then that judges were going to sentence people and put them away. So we went through this process where, of course, the NIMBYs wanted to, they didn't like the idea of a prison. And after a while, it's not the issue. It becomes friends get up before their friends and their family and their neighbors, and they say things, and out of pride, they can't take them back. Nonetheless, we built a prison. It was a maximum security prison, the safest you could ever believe. Rolls Royce. It had a inmate census of 440 with a guard ratio that was better than any place else. They had, something close to 300 guards for this prison. It was the worst of the worst. And I'm awful proud of that project. 10 years later, Governor Granholm, with a stroke of a pen, closed it. They closed that facility, $46 million, 400 jobs. They divided up all the inmates and they shipped them out. Management and budget, who actually own those facilities, they never winterized it. So you have these buildings with buckled concrete floors because the water froze from the water mains not being drained. And I look back and I worked hard. I was on TV every other night. I can't even begin to tell you the things we found, my wife and I found in our mailbox. And, but finally it passed. I stayed 13 years there. And I was awful proud of that. And every night when I go home now, I get on my tablet, and believe it or not, I look at Thompson videos. Maybe it's an illness. I think I'd be sick of it. But I see all the way from Portland, Oregon, all the way to Bangor, Maine, all the way from Dakota to Texas, the subject of data centers.
There we go.
And I see this contentious issue. And I'm thinking to myself, how would you vote on that, Doug? How would you promote that if you were going to? And you know, based on what I learned about the person, I don't know if I would. Think about this for a second. Look at the technology. When I started in this business, there was no such thing as personal computers. There wasn't. You know, there just was no such thing. Personal computers came out in 1984, so I look at technology and the way it's grown today. And the idea is, you spend all this money and time putting in a data center, and with the way that technology is, who's to say that that technology, that data center, with a slash of a pen, isn't going to be gone within 8 to 10 years? You've invested all this money, all this time, all this contentious debate with the public, only to have it fall. So you see, Mayor, that one lesson that I learned with the prison in the state of Michigan taught me a lot of things, and it taught me, well, maybe we need to be thoughtful about how we approach things. We need to be cautious. We need to be thoughtful. We need to do it as a team. I guess that would be one of the greatest achievements, but probably one of the greatest failures I've ever experienced. So,
Thank you for that.
I've got a two-part question here that's pretty straightforward. How many hours would you be comfortable working in a week, and are you able to work in person?
okay, yeah, let me tell you about April time. When you're a city manager, you take an oath of office, you're a city manager 24/7. You have a storm like we had 2 weeks ago, you better be on site. You're always on site. You're always either on the phone or in some type of communication. And you need to be helping DPW, you need to be helping people with, I mean, look at our citizens, look at all the limbs that have come down, and they're still, it'll be weeks before they get it all picked up. You need to have your manager there at City Hall being ready to answer not only your questions, but also being ready to answer the citizens. I think that that's critical. And the other thing I want to just tell you something else. Another thing I see as you're interim, my job is also to help find the long-term placement of a manager. And it would be my expectation that they follow my lead in that dedication. They need to. If they're gonna make it, they need to, in this profession, they need to just set their mind like being a minister. It's a call. It's public service. It's not always about money. It's about service. So, to answer your question, now I live quite a ways away. But one of the questions was if there was a snowstorm, would I get help if I had to spend the night? That's up for you and the attorney to decide. So I don't have to sleep in my truck. Anyway.
Any other questions? Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah. So over the next year, the way I see it is again, to assist you and the department head. When we find the right candidate, they're interviewing us as well. And we want to be as attractive, as functional as we possibly can. Because in this hiring market, we have to be very careful. We have to be very attractive in getting the best we can. It's not like what it used to be. The hiring market is turned upside down right now. They're being more selective than we are. And that's obviously not. But I'm just saying that we want to put on a base that makes Sturgis inviting. We want them to locate here. We want them to live here and be prosperous. We want them to be part of this family. So again, stability is everything, and that's what I'm hoping to bring to the stability. So we're gonna have our differences. Hopefully they're done in the office, not out in public, and that we're supportive of one another. So that's my philosophy.
You bring that up, and I'm thinking about the reasons why we're doing the things the way we're doing them right now. We decided to go this route, and I think it was a suggestion, or not maybe a suggestion, but an option that the city clerk brought to us of waiting to hire a permanent because of this upcoming election in November, because there's 6 people sitting here that could possibly not be here at that point in time. So you're here during a very critical time. And I hope that by the time that we are looking for that permanent person, that stability is back. So
In every city I've worked at, that's been the case where they've relied on me to work with the recruiter to find that ideal candidate.
yeah, we've done it before, all too recently, to be honest with you, but and it's a shame we're sitting here again doing it, but here we are. So there's a lot of work to do.
Yes. There it is.
Any other questions?
Well, like I told my doctor, I feel good and I look even better.
All right, TJ, I said, so we conclude the interviews,
Yep.
the interview, and we'll reach out.
Okay.
Some way, somehow, probably be through Ken, but we'll be reaching out.
Yeah, I want to give Ken and our attorney, this was the contract that I used in the Halloween, that the attorney
Thank you.
drew up. I just thought that might help you going forward. Let me just tell you, I'm pretty low maintenance. I don't need benefits. My wife says sometimes I need hearing aids. So I'm just low maintenance. So I'm not gonna wear a tie except in council meetings. Pretty formal in council meetings. But again, I'm trying to set a tone that there's 3 R's I live by: respect, restraint, and reverence. Those 3 R's you can never go wrong with. And if you do those 3 R's as a board, as a public servant, then you'll never fail. So I wish Sturgis all the best. And I would hope that you would never, ever hesitate call me if you need anything, even if you decide to pass and go with somebody else. Please don't ever hesitate to give me a call. And I do want to thank Andrew. So, Colin, thank you. And again, I'm available, I just finished up Albion. So I'm available just about any time. My wife Anita has some chores for me to do, so I would think within a couple of weeks. To check with everything. So, again, thank you so much and thank you for the wonderful tour today. It's just fun. You know, when you drive around town, you look at both things. You look at the curve, you look at, you know, the drainage structures, you know, you look at fire hydrants. And Anita, she doesn't look at those things. I do. So it was fun. We have a well-maintained city and love it. So,
That works hard.
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
There's all my best all. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the visitor section of the agenda. If there's a visitor here that'd like to make a public comment for items not listed on the agenda, please feel free to come to the podium, state your name and address. You have 2 minutes. Hold on a second, let me start my.
Set it up,
timer.
Aaron.
Set it up. All right,
Let me know when you're ready.
great.
Good evening, Barry Cox, 1421 South Marabee Street, Sturgis, Michigan. I want to bounce off of the interview that just took place for the commission. And the item I wanted to bring up is, I think I've been to most of the meetings where the discussion has taken place about process and schedule and things of that nature. And, you know, I don't have an issue hiring an interim city manager, and it makes pretty good sense to do that. But something that Mr. Terry said did strike a chord with me, and that is that you know, we need to be fully positioned. We have, you know, people in place everywhere else when you get a city manager interviews take place. And to that effect, I think it would be beneficial for city commission to move, because you have a couple of positions right now that are not currently filled, to maybe look at getting the assistant to the city manager, or whatever you want to call it at this particular point. It's been a couple of different things over the course of time. Try to get that person in place, maybe have the opportunity to work under Mr. Terry or whoever prior to new city manager. But I would not, and I know this was well discussed, I would not necessarily wait until you make a determination as far as the election. And this is why. The community as a whole, you have 8 people here right now. I think it's incumbent upon whoever the city manager ends up being, they will have to deal with whoever is in those chairs. So to wait and put the community in stasis for a year doesn't make a lot of sense to me personally. With that, have a good day.
All right, thank you, Barry. You still had about 17 seconds left. Thank you, Barry. Anybody else like to make a public comment for items not listed on the agenda? Okay. Moving on with the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
So we have a motion
Support.
and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Next on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
So we have a motion
Second.
and support. Was that Wiki or Wiki? Okay, both. All right, so we have motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So move. Moving on to new business, the millage rate public hearing. Mr. Ken Rhodes. And we'll go ahead and open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll certainly rely on Andrew and Sadie to provide more information about the budget, but annually we have to set the millage rate. Our millage rate has been rolled back this year for city operating to 11.3939. And our streets and sidewalk millage has been rolled back to 2.926. We have always levied the full sidewalk millage, which began as 3 mills, in order to pay for the construction projects that we do. And the city operating millage last year was at 11.08. During our budget discussion so far, we've had 11.08 as the model in there. Although you also see that the proposed budget does run a deficit. So this year, increasing to the maximum millage rate of 11.3939 would raise an additional $100,000 approximately, cost the average homeowner about $15 from last year. The average homeowner, well, all homeowners, the interest rate was 2.7%. So their taxes have gone up taxable value's gone up 2.7%. So at this point, I'm happy to answer any questions. But again, if it's budget related, I think Sadie and Andrew can probably provide you additional information. And this rate would be placed on the tax bills going out in July.
Any questions for Ken?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Sturgis,
We
whoops.
gotta have
Oh, that's right.
public
It's
comment first.
forgot.
I think so.
Sorry.
I'm getting better. Any, is there any comments from the public? Okay, at this point, okay. All right. Come on up. State your name and address, and you got 2 minutes.
I'm Tom Picker. I live at 1416 Rolling Ridge Lane here in Sturgis. And I'm not real familiar with how all of it works, but with the hospital closing and everything, I anticipate probably, I think I've read some things about upstaffing with the fire department and so forth, because obviously they're going to be transferring a lot of people to out of town hospitals now. And I'm just concerned about that cost, and how that's going to affect us as taxpayers. Obviously, we're going to have to pay that, which I have no problem with, because we have to have some place to take these people. But I'm concerned about the extra cost of that, the cost of possibly buying more equipment, more vehicles, and things like that. So I know that you all do your due diligence when it comes to budgets and so forth, but I just hope that you remember that, we're squeezed kind of tight as it is. And I know that this is a tough situation because of nothing that any of us could have done to prevent this, I don't believe. And I just think that it's an unfortunate situation, and it's something that we're going to have to deal with as a city. And I'm a little bit concerned about costs going forward. So that's all.
Thank you, Tom. Any other questions from the public? Okay, at this time, we'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Sturgis City Commission set the 2026 millage rate at 11.3939 mills for the general operating millage.
So we
Second.
have a motion and a
Second.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So move.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Sturgis City Commission set the 2026 millage rate at 2.9667 mills for the streets
Oh,
sidewalk.
it should be
improvement.
2.926 if it
Didn't I
does
say
say,
2.9667?
yeah, so 2.926
That was
is
the
what,
old,
Oh,
that was
yeah.
the old maximum.
yeah.
What
So
is
if
that
that's in
number,
there.
Ken?
Sorry about that.
So that's
2.926.
I'm messing up tonight pretty good.
They were just 2025.
I
Okay,
did not see that.
all right.
So I'll start over. Move that the Sturgis City Commission set the 2026 millage rate at 2.926 mills for the, whoops.
That's correct.
That's
Is
correct.
that, is that
For
right?
streets and
Okay, For the
sidewalks.
street sidewalk improvement millage.
So we have a motion
Second.
and support, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So move.
We wouldn't have
Next.
minded 2.9667, but the state might have had something to say.
Next on the agenda is the transmission line poles. Tyler Stark. Welcome.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, pleasure to be here tonight, filling for Chris. I gotta put these on because I'm getting older and I can't see anymore, so bear with me. We have to purchase 32 transmission poles to complete our substation on Bojan Road. Low bidder was One Call Energy with a total of $60,689.26. This project will begin this fall. Completion early 2027 with a total cost of $2.2 million. And I'm open to any questions you might have about these transmission poles we need to order.
Hey, Tyler, are these all wood?
These will be wood poles, correct? This will be on South Nottawa between Fawn River Road and Bojan Road.
Yep.
That's where this transmission line will tie into our existing 69 kV loop. So what it does is give us redundancy. We have two feeds coming into town. When we install a substation, we need 2 transmission feeds to it. Enhance a loop. I guess if you want the old saying of the Christmas light, one ball goes out, the whole strand goes out. This prevents that from happening. Allows us to have a trip on our transmission line and keep the power on. So most recently, you got to see some of that a week or two ago.
Yep.
So it functioned as it should. We had a tree on our transmission line, and it isolated to a certain area and kept half the town on. So in a sense, that's what this is designed to do.
So being that these are transmission and not distribution lines, I mean, I think of transmission lines as the big metal things that are out here by, behind the diesel plant, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Are these aren't just regular poles, and they're bigger?
They're all around town. I mean, they go down Fawn River Road. They're 80-foot wooden poles, rated at a certain class to handle our distribution built underneath it.
Okay.
So
they're different than what we.
they are. Yep, they're a different class altogether. So they handle more weight, obviously. But 69 kV is on the lower side of transmission voltage. It goes way up from there. So that's where you see your steel structures along freeways.
Yeah.
Those are your, they call those like super high voltage lines. So we deal with 69 kV in a transmission world. It's kind of a lower voltage. So we use wooden poles for it.
Good info. Thank you.
What's the lifespan of a pole?
I like to say 50 years.
50 years?
Yeah, the old adage is the poles hold the wire the first 50 years, the next 50 years, the wire holds the pole up. So unfortunately, saw some of that this past couple weeks. So it all depends on where you're putting it, the ground around it, but they are treated.
Okay.
We like them to last 50 to 80 years, but cars like to hit poles and lightning likes to strike them. So it's
Gotcha.
50 years would be ideal.
Okay. Any other questions for Tyler?
Yeah, just one.
Yeah.
These are completing a loop, so they're not gonna be filling in for any of them that are existing that we got from AEP?
Nope, this would be a separate line down Nottawa. The AEP line will be running down the railroad tracks.
Okay.
So, and they'll meet all the way to the substation on Bojan, completing that loop.
That's the redundancy, right, Tyler?
Yeah,
It's
that's the redundancy.
for
So if
the-
something were to
for the
happen on
line
one,
for AP.
we wouldn't lose our customers. There's relays and breakers that are, in sequence to help protect the customers and our lines and substations. So
That's it.
Okay. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Sturgis City Commission approve the bid from One Call Energy for utility poles for the 69 kV Nottawa Loop project in the amount of $60,689.26 as presented.
So we have a motion,
Second.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the 26 crack sealing bids. Patrick Banderies. Did I say that right?
Verderies.
Banderies?
Verderies.
Verderies. Okay. Welcome tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Hoping I don't have to phone a friend tonight. over here for this one. Presenting 2026 crack sealing bid. It's preventative maintenance for the asphalt streets. On Monday, we received bids for the 2026 crack sealing program. Fleece and Vanderbrink provided in your packet 3 bids. Low bid from Asphalt Restoration Incorporation out of Kalamazoo for $78,960 for 70,500 pounds of crack sealant. The 2025-2026 budget includes $100,000 of preventative maintenance for the funds of major and local streets. F&V created a project bidding document under Master Services Amendment number 4 for $9,100, leaving $90,900 in crack sealing activities. Essentially, we would like to use the $100,000 in full for the crack sealant by doing the project up to the original amount of the $78,960, but then taking it all the way to the maximum number, not exceeding the $100,000. So if you could show the map, please. Originally, we were going to do the priority 1 local and major streets. And then anything left over from there, we are going to do the major streets first, and then for priority 2, and then priority 2 local streets not to exceed the $100,000.
So the one thing I'd say here is we do have to kind of balance the major and local portions because we've budgeted $50,000 from each. So as Patrick said, we're going to be looking at doing all the priority 1 major and local streets. Doing that is actually going to put us slightly over in local streets compared to major streets. But we'll fill in the balance, which will most likely be focused on priority 2 major streets. So the map that was at your table this evening, the map that was included in your packet was just priority 1, priority 2, not split between major and local. Wanted to give you a little bit different look so you understood kind of what that priority 2 breakdown in particular was going to be, what streets we'd be focusing on with the overage. When we do these bids, part of what we do is we get an amount per pound essentially, or per per pound of crack sealant. So cracks wider than we expected or not as wide, that can shift those dollars too. This is our best guess at what this looks like based on the amount of poundage that we have. These things can change over time, but right now what we're anticipating is that we would be doing all the priority 1 major and local streets, and then we would focus on priority 2 major streets from there on out until we've expended that total budget of $90,900. And if by chance we have some room in local streets, we might do some of the priority 2 local streets as well, but that's going to be a little bit of a balancing act based on funding available in those areas. So I hope that maybe that preemptively answers a couple of questions.
I guess the priority 2 majors, if whatever money's left after the priority 1 local majors.
Mm-hmm.
There are several yellow, but there's varying priority as well. Like which ones need it worse than others? I'm guessing they have a list there. Which ones?
Oh, in terms of which ones we start with or don't start with. Yeah. I mean, I think we'll leave that up to Patrick and his team to kind of be looking at that and saying, this one first, this one second, if we don't have the money to do them all.
Any questions for Patrick? What's the wish of the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Sturgis City Commission approve the contract for the 2026 crack sealing program with Asphalt Restoration Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $90,000 and authorize the city manager to sign the contract documents on behalf of the city.
So we have a motion
Support.
and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Next on the agenda is the North Centerville Road storm sewer proposal. Patrick, you're back up.
Thank you again, Mayor. The city has been collaborating with Newell Brands and their consultant Environment Resources Management on the EPA Superfund cleanup for the groundwater aquifer for several years, recording material buildup within our storm sewers. In 2023, Newell Brands televised 3 primary sections of the storm sewer use treatment in the early 1990s. National Power Routing was contracted last year to clean 27 inches of 27-inch and 42-inch storm sewer on North Centerville between Newell Brands extraction well number 2 discharge and St. Joseph Street. Despite multiple mechanical and chemical cleaning methods implemented by NPR, only a small portion of the 27-inch storm sewer was satisfied and cleaned. As we worked to clean the pipe and struggled with the 27-inch section, ERM consulted with Deutsche Environmental Services on the issue and had them look into the struvite material. They encouraged us to contract with Deutsche to implement Deutsche's proprietary cleaning method to remove the struvite material from the pipe wall. In the packet, it is presented that ERM to by Deutsche to clean the 27-inch storm sewer. ERM like to have the city stewardess hire Deutsche Environmental Services under the sole source provider method to spend at least 5 days of the pilot study to evaluate whether Deutsche method will be successful in cleaning the pipe with a maximum time frame of 10 days. In addition, the city has a proposal from Fishback to provide oversight during Deutsche's operation for the same time period. Not to exceed the cost of these activities would be $83,800 plus $17,404 for Fishback oversight. The pilot study project costs would pay through major local street funds and reimbursed 100% by Newell Brands through invoicing once the city incurs the cost. Cost for Fishback's oversight. Engineering department and staff coordinated with all efforts will be reimbursed by Newell Brands. No funds were budgeted for the project for 2025-26. Included in your packet is the memo regarding a budget amendment for this project. In accordance with the Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act, government funds need to be amended and reflect the change in the expected revenue and the operating expenditures incurred in 25-26 fiscal year as compared to those originally estimated. Essentially they're gonna oversee the new cleaning style from Deutsche. And as they're cleaning, this time we're gonna kind of evaluate, or Fishback is gonna evaluate for the first couple of days to make sure that we're making the progress that we're supposed to be making. And then essentially they're gonna call it at that. If they're making good progress, we're gonna continue. And that's why there's a 10-day max there. And then if they're not, they're gonna go ahead and shut that down, and we're gonna have to figure something else out with this struvite situation on those lines.
So just for a little history and context, I guess, if you recall, we did come to you last year with this project originally. As Patrick mentioned, there was 42-inch storm sewer pipe and this 27-inch storm sewer pipe. We were able to clean the 42-inch with some difficulty. It did take quite a bit of time and effort, mechanical process, but we were able to get that cleaned. 27-inch, we were unable to be successful as we wanted to be through that, just based on the composition of this struvite material. So this is us taking another swing at it. When I say us, it's Newell Brands in concert with us. We have an agreement where they would pay to help us clean our storm sewer because the struvite material is being generated from their treatment process. So as Patrick mentioned and talked about in the write-up, it's 100% reimbursement on this. So that's why, you know, willing to look at a little bit different process when they say, hey, let's try these guys. Normally, we wouldn't just try somebody like that, but they're footing the bill, so we're willing to let them if they want to move forward with this particular company.
Andrew, I'm not sure if the question's for you or Patrick, but on this 10-day window, if we get nowhere, do we still get reimbursed for that 10-day window that we cleaned or tried to?
Yeah, so from my understanding, again, we're gonna see where they're at after 2 or 3 days. That will definitely be reimbursed.
Yeah.
And then if we continue to go from there, yes, it will also be reimbursed from there too.
Okay. And we'll be, ERM is going to be kind of evaluating with us too. So they're also gonna be saying, yeah, we think we've tried this enough. We don't want to foot the bill anymore, stop. Or, yeah, this is working, continue to go ahead. And then, you know, again, it'll be, if it's unsuccessful at that point, then it'll be what's our next step and
next
how we
move.
address this 27-inch.
Okay.
Again, when we talk about 42-inch, and that's the bulk of what's downstream, I think the map up there kind of shows.
The orange.
Yeah, the
yellow.
orange pipe in particular is the area that we're kind of looking at. You're looking at larger pipe as we get further south. So as we start to target areas of, you know, that may be of concern or other blockages, those are going to be a little bit bigger and more prone to be able to use the treatments that we've already tried. So.
Another question. So could you just briefly tell us how they remove the struvite?
From what I understand, in the past, they tried to do a chemical to soften the struvite and then go through and do a mechanical portion of it. And I don't think that worked as well as what they were hoping. This time they're gonna do a mechanical kind of, I think, ground out sort of procedure. So apparently, Deutsch is saying that they have a different way of doing it, but also still mechanically. So we're gonna just kind of see if their procedure works better than the last company that did it.
And looking backward, just because
Looking
Patrick
back,
wasn't
yeah.
necessarily for all this. So they started out trying to use like different drill bits and other things. I think we used water blasters at one point, if I'm remembering correctly. Barry, do we have something down there? Trying to remember all the different things. At one point,
my friend.
I know. I'm gonna call on him. He's here. I'm gonna call on him.
So the first method.
The 2 minutes don't apply.
Was try to basically go in there, sit this basically a giant drill bit in the pipe, spin it and grind it out.
Yeah.
The motor on that burned out. Second method they tried to do high pressure blaster, as we mentioned, which was doing something, but it was also because struvite is very similar material to concrete, which is what pipe is made of. It started doing damage to the pipe, and that was not what we wanted to have happen. So that method was stopped. But as Patrick mentioned, the chemical treatment method, try to soften this material up, which I do believe it did soften it somewhat, but still the high pressure blaster did not do anything to it. If whatever the method is, did not work, I think we really left only 2 options. One, manual cleaning, where somebody actually goes through that pipe.
Oh, man.
27-inch.
And it's 27-inch. Understand it can be done down to 18-inch pipe. And replacement is the other option.
And what we had success with on the 42-inch was largely the manual cleaning method. So that it was slow, but it was effective. And so, yeah, we're hopeful on the 27-inch, but I think we're skeptical based on what we've seen so far. So, but we'll try.
So one other question that came to mind is, so when they're removing that, do they like back that back out as they go, or they flush it back down the rest of the way down the storm sewer?
So from what I understand, they remove the material and take it to a container that we take to waste management.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
correct.
okay.
Yeah.
Take it right out. Yeah.
Just they would kind of repeat the pause to let it go back down. So.
No, they
All right,
they
thank you.
physically remove it.
Any other questions for Patrick?
So if this doesn't work and we end up replacing the pipe, is that also going to be reimbursed then?
Yep.
It means a road and everything?
We'll see. I'm pretty sure Newell Brands doesn't want to get to that point. So I think we're gonna run down
I'll take a new
we're
road.
gonna run down every option we can until we get to there. So.
Okay.
I got another one. What exactly is going into the pipes that's causing it to do that?
So I'm trying to remember all the details. It's basically their treatment process.
I'll try.
Their treatment process out of the, as they're looking at stuff. There's particulate matter that's going out. Now, not harmful to anything other than as it sits, it creates this new thing. That's probably the layman's term version. Barry and Patrick probably have more detail than I do.
Yeah, so as the filtrations, as it filters through the carbon, through the system itself, it creates a chemical, I believe, that then hardens essentially, and then it grabs onto the concrete, and then it just and then it builds up from there, and which then creates all of your backup, and it just continues to grow and grow and grow. But you probably have about it.
Pretty close.
I tried.
So as I think most of you know, we have very hard water in the system, which is calcium, manganese. And so those things are not collected by the Department of Filtration. But when it gets done going through it and the water is clean, we also have high. These two things combined, as soon as it gets into the air, it wants to precipitate. It creates the precipitated calcium carbonate, manganese. And they're very similar to concrete in many respects as it builds up over time. You have to understand. This EW2 has been operational for 22 years now. Prior to that, EW1 also discharged into this pipe going back into the 90s. So this is a long process to have this build up curve has happened over the first decade. And it's got you got to get them. Or you got to
That was way better than mine.
He's in the audience. I'm still gonna
Yeah.
call on him if I need him. I'm sorry.
Any other questions for Patrick or Barry?
For Barry.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Sturgis City Commission approve a sole source contract for the 27-inch storm sewer cleaning pilot study on North Centerville Road to Doge in the amount not to exceed $83,800 and authorize the city manager to sign contract documents on behalf of the city.
So we have a motion
Second.
and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Sturgis City Commission approve the professional services agreement with Fishbeck Inc. for construction inspection and administration during the pilot study for a cost not to exceed $17,404 and authorize the city manager to sign the professional services agreement on behalf of the city.
So we have a motion
Second.
and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Sturgis City Commission approve the budget amendments for fiscal year 2025 to 2026 as presented.
So we have a motion
Support.
and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you, Patrick. Next on the agenda is 306 North Street Development Agreement. Mr. Will Pritchard, welcome, Will.
Thanks, Commissioners. So in 2022, the city acquired this property through a tax foreclosure from the county, and in 2023, the city commission put it out for bid. Jose Lopez was the low bid at that time, and the city entered into a development agreement with him. At that time, he had requested 18 months to complete the project as he had obtained another property at the same time, so he's going to be working on both of them, where the other one he was able to complete. This one was a much larger project, if you guys have seen the house down here at the corner. Mr. Lopez has put a lot of time and money into that property. It looks fantastic. He's done a great job with it. The issue is the development agreement termed out or defaulted August of 2025, and he's getting ready to sell it. We looked at it and determined that it was passed. So we have to, initially we thought it was just going to be an extension of the development agreement, but unfortunately he's in default. So it's a forbearance agreement is what we have to approve. So we're just requesting a forbearance agreement that would allow him to complete it by, I think, July 31st of 2026 with his intent to close on here within the next couple of weeks. So by approving the forbearance agreement allows him to sell it, and then it allows city manager to sign off on the mortgage that the city has on it.
Okay.
So happy to, I did do a final inspection last week, and he did receive a certificate of occupancy as well.
Okay. Any
Happy to
questions
answer any
for Will?
questions.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Sturgis City Commission approve the forbearance agreement for the property located at 306 North Street through July 31st, 2026, and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement.
So we have a motion
Second.
and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you, Will. Next on the agenda is the SYCA Endowment Fund Policy, Mr. Andrew Cook.
Yeah, also have Jamie Eimer here, Director of the Sturgis Young Center for the Arts. Just want to talk a little bit about this policy. So the foundation board, or excuse me, the SYCA board had been looking at potential for establishing an endowed fund for programming. Those who've been on the commission for a little bit will remember back in 2023, we established the non-endowed programming fund, and a little bit of a different methodology for how we handled fundraising and ultimately ticket sales from the programming series, or the program or performance series. At the time, we set up that non-endowed fund. Now they were looking at putting together an endowed fund, kind of securing some of the fundraising dollars that were created there to create a bit of a legacy that would allow for funding programming into the future. As they agreed on that and kind of put out some thoughts as to the amount to establish that fund with, we got to looking at how we handle all our different funds, both the non-endowed and the endowed. We ended up putting together this policy, taking that back to them, and now bringing that forward to you with their recommendation. So I want to go kind of quickly through the foundation funds policy, talk a little bit about the different funds that support Sturgis Young and how they're being treated under the policy. And then we can kind of talk about next steps. So we have multiple funds set up through the Sturgis Area Community Foundation that either benefit programming at SYCA or the SYCA itself. These include a mix of non-endowed and endowed funds. This policy kind of outlines those funds and provides guidelines for how they're funded by us and their use. Goal is to use these funds in conjunction with fundraising to provide stable resource for the SYCA to operate and maintain the facility and provide programming for the Sturgis community into the future. So starting with the non-endowed funds, we have two. First is the Sturgis Young Auditorium Capital Campaign Fund. This is used to benefit our capital campaign drive. At first, it was for the new seats, but also other upgrades to the auditorium. So all the road to restoration fundraising that's been done over the last 5-10 years has gone through this fund, as well as other things that kind of benefit the capital campaign, think physical infrastructure to the building type of funds. The second is the SYCA Programming Fund, non-endowed. We'll make that distinction because of what we're looking to do going forward. But this is established as a depository for gifts, conveyances, and other transfers intended to fund programming at Sturgis Young Center for the Arts. So how we use the SYCA Programming Fund, non-endowed, this is where we get into formalizing and kind of putting into words some of what Commission had passed previously about use of funds. So number one, it's for programming specific fundraising initiatives. These are how we put funds in. One, programming specific fundraising initiatives. So every year when Jamie goes out and the board goes out and raises money for the programming series or the performance series, that's one thing that would go into this fund to help pay for the cost to put on that performance series. We also put into this fund total ticket sales from performances supported by specifically this non-endowed programming fund currently, but also in the future as we establish an endowed fund, anything that would be used to support that. So We set up the season. Jamie and the board put together the pro formas for the different performances or for the performance series. We say it's going to cost $80,000 to put those on. The endowed and non-endowed programming funds supply $50,000 of that money to put on those performances. We sell tickets. We sell $40,000 or $45,000 of tickets. Every dollar goes back into the fund to continue to support future performance series. If we sell $50,000 up to that amount that has been put in that year, that goes back into the fund. So that's kind of what that second bullet point means. Third bullet point is if we sell more than that amount, so we sell $60,000, $70,000 in ticket sales, that difference, 50% of those would go back into the performance, into the fund for future performances. The remainder would stay with the Sturgis Young budget for whatever costs are generated by the facility or anything else. So right now, it's, again, the idea is we're raising money every year. We're spending it to do the performance series, but we're also putting the money back from the performance series for future growth and future performances. We also talk in the next bullet point on page 2 about ticket sale contributions to the fund, how they're calculated at the end of the performance series or performance season. And we're using that a little differently because we want to provide this as flexible as possible. Right now, know that this is primarily related to the performance series, but it could be other things in the future if the commission or the board so chose. We talk about it being, if it's close to the end of the fiscal year, how the calculations will be made as soon as revenues and expenditures have been completed and verified. Talks about utilization of funds from this non-endowed fund. They must be used for direct programming expenses, so performance fees, marketing for show, hotels, etc. of the Sturgis Young Center for the Arts. Funds budgeted but not expended will be returned or not drawn from the fund. So again, if we budget to pull $50,000 from the performance from the fund, but Jamie gets a screaming deal on one of the performances and we only end up needing 45,000, we're only going to either pull or we'll either only pull the 45 if it happens before we make the draw, or if we've already made the draw of 50 and we only need the 45, the other 5 goes back into the fund. Reallocation of funds. So this gets into the idea of establishing an endowed programming fund. We talk about the fact that funds may be reallocated to the endowed programming fund or one of the other programming focused SYCA endowed funds, and we'll get to that in a moment. But largely, we would anticipate it going into the newly created endowed programming fund. Allocations may be made by majority recommendation of the SYCA board, and this is where the copy that's on your desk differs slightly, because there was a note at the meeting that didn't get picked up in the draft I sent out on Friday. It says majority recommendation of the SYCA board currently appointed, and then approval by the Sturgis City Commission. So no funds will be transferred from the non-endowed fund to the endowed fund without commission approving it, but it has to be recommended by the SYCA board. And then second, that would happen after approval of pro forma budgets for performances to be paid for by the fund in the upcoming fiscal year. So that's just us wanting to make sure we have enough money to be able to support the things that we're planning on doing in the next year before we take all that money out and put it away. And then use of the Sturgis Young Auditorium Capital. So that kind of covers the programming non-endowed fund. Next section is the capital campaign non-endowed fund. A little bit simpler. The source of funds would be any capital specific fundraising initiatives, and then utilization must be utilized for capital projects for the improvement of the Sturgis Young Center for the Arts. So now we get into the endowed funds. We list a number of them here, so I will save the 2 at the top for the end, because those are funds that would be the city's funds. The others are not controlled by us per se, but they do support Sturgis Young and its various missions. So we have the Patricia A. Franks Fund, Flora Beck Performing Arts Fund, Daily Gray Fund for the Council of the Arts Fund, Beverly McCullough Music Performance Fund, and Perry Family Youth Fund for the Arts Fund. Or excuse me, Perry Family Youth for the Arts Fund. Each of those has a specific mission, specific terms on which we can use them for different activities at Sturgis Young Center for the Arts. We do utilize these every year for different performances. Right now, a lot of them will supplement the performance series where they're applicable. So for example, if we have a fund that is classical music, one of our funds is specifically there. The Beverly McCullough Music Performance Fund is specific for support for classical music performances at Sturgis Young, in the Sturgis community as the community foundation determines. So that's one we draw from, but it's for a very specific purpose. So all those we don't have as much control over. We do ask for draws from those funds, and generally those are granted, but those are not specifically ours. The endowed fund that is currently established is the Sturgis Young Auditorium Fund. This fund is established to act as a depository for gifts, conveyances, and other transfers intended to assist Sturgis Young Auditorium in achieving its goals and purposes. It is a very broad purpose fund, so any dollars in there can be used for a variety of reasons. That may be capital campaign, it could be a performance, it could be a lot of different things, but that one has very broad purpose. The second on the bulleted list of endowed funds is the SYCA Endowed Programming Fund. This would be a new fund which is being proposed to establish. And we're putting that as established to act as a depository for gifts, conveyances, and other transfers intended to fund programming at the Sturgis Young Center for the Arts. So that is what we're looking to do. What's important to note in establishing this fund is that the money that's put in there, unlike the non-endowed funds, we are able to spend any of the dollars from those non-endowed funds for a purpose over the course of time. When you have an endowed fund, you have a spendable amount and you have principal. That principal is not able to be accessed. You're only able to spend off the principal. Typically, the endowed funds earn better returns by some measure. They're funded or invested differently than the non-endowed funds. They also have slightly less administration fees than the non-endowed funds that go with them. But again, the caveat there is that the funds that you contribute in principal are not able to be drawn in the future. So you would only be earning the interest off those funds as spendable rather than being able to access the principal if you so chose. So recommendation has been to move forward with establishing an endowed fund. And I believe in your packet, you were also given a copy of the draft charitable fund agreement, advised charitable fund agreement. This was produced by the Community Foundation. How that would be set up, it talks about the irrevocable gift, kind of the fund, how funds are distributed. This is in the policy as well, but basically the Community Foundation would rely upon the recommendation of the Sturgis Young Center for the Arts Board, if approved via vote of the majority of the board, as the recommendation of the donor. So the way we have that set up is if we're using funds from this, the director would go to the board and say, I recommend we do this. Board would look at it. They would make a recommendation to the foundation for use of funds with a majority vote. And that's kind of the procedure that would go forward. The one thing that isn't in the draft copy of the charitable fund agreement that you have is the purpose. And I did talk to the foundation about this after we got it late last week, this first draft of this agreement. basically what that purpose would be what you see in that second bullet point, the fact that the fund is established to act as a depository for gifts, conveyances, or other transfers intended to fund programming at the Sturgis Young Center for the Arts. They'll be working that into a future draft. And so our approval would be contingent on that language being changed by the foundation and being brought forth and reviewed by the attorneys.
Minor, are we gonna change the spelling? A lot of these are misspelled. Several of them.
Misspelled in the
Sturgis
foundation
Young-
funds policy.
Sturgis
or-
Young, Sturgis has an I with an E. It's there's several.
Those would have come directly from in some cases, those would have come directly from the foundation, but yes, I will catch
It's
them.
several spells.
I will make the changes, yes. Thank you. Going forward, just talk the rest of the way about the policy, utilization of funds for the Sturgis Young Auditorium Fund. Again, used to assist the auditorium in achieving its goals, very broad purpose. Allocation proposed by the SYC director, recommended by the board to the city commission. Commission must approve the disbursement for a specific purpose. That's the auditorium fund, the more general one. And then I just mentioned with the SYC endowed programming fund. For programming expenses, allocation of funds proposed by the director, approved by the board with a majority vote of those currently appointed. The last element that is included here, we do have the section that talks about other endowed funds. This just memorializes existing practice. And that's basically that request for those resources proposed by a director, recommended by the SYCA board with a majority vote. Those currently appointed, all requests must be approved by Sturgis Area Community Foundation or the individual funds as per their policy. So we don't get to control that 100%, but generally those are pretty open. Appendix A, attached to this policy, this was the SYCA board wanting to kind of, I guess, lay out the vision for the future and how they see these endowment working. Obviously, this is up to future SYCA boards and city commissions to determine how they want to address these things. But this is kind of the path that the board is recommending and what goals they see. So first, for the performance series, is to use the SYCA programming fund non-endowed and the SYCA endowed programming fund to fund a performance series for the SYCA and to continue to use those funds for this practice solely until the SYCA endowed programming fund reaches a total endowed fund balance of at least $2 million. After it's reached that $2 million threshold, if it's reached or exceeded, recommendation would be for future staff and board to consider using a portion of the programming funds endowed and non-endowed to fund other non-performance series shows for the SYCA. And then finally, when we've reached a total endowed fund balance of at least $3 million, be considered revise the policy to allow for ticket sales to be allocated to non-programming funds, specifically funds set aside for capital improvements. So basically that section about how we take back dollars from the ticket sales they would look to change that if we've reached an endowed balance of at least $3 million. So that's kind of their recommendations and goals. They wanted to have something for future boards and commissions to consider going forward. So we placed that in there. Lastly, so the recommendation has been made by the SYCA board to establish that endowed programming fund with a transfer of $136,549 transferred from the non-endowed programming fund to the endowed programming fund. We looked at that. I believe balance is sufficient to handle that. We would have a remainder for this year. I know the board is looking at in the future having a buffer of about $20,000. We'll be a little bit ahead of that because of the way the last performance series came in, but we can always look to adjust that in the next year as needed. Happy to try and answer any questions.
Any questions for Andrew?
I do. I'm just wondering if these funds are used. When Sturgis Public Schools does band, orchestra, choir, Sturgis Wind Symphony, those are all free to come to. What fund pays staff and cleanup and all that? Electric?
So
Do they rent this?
they're renting, well, go ahead, Jamie.
Well, they're a rental.
Okay.
We work with the schools, for that reason. It was a partner, so we work with them as well, but they do the rental.
Okay.
They don't, they're like, us being on the performance stage show, we're paying everything us, and they're just bringing all their own stuff and just basically paying everything.
So Sturgis Wind Symphony is a rental as well?
Correct.
Okay.
Partnership, rental, we built that partnership over so many years. We do help promote their events with that partnership after so long, but they do still pay rental. And
Gotcha.
Well, the SYCA Endowment Programming Fund is the new one. And it's
Correct.
gonna start with 136,549.
Correct.
Both of those read the same in the beginning. They're established to act as a depository for gifts, conveyances, and other transfers and things to assist. What determines how much goes into which, whether it's the Sturgis Young Auditorium Fund or the Endowed Programming Fund? Is there a percentage?
Number one, you determine that, and the difference between the programming fund and the auditorium fund is that the programming fund is specifically for programming. The other
Right.
fund is not specific for programming.
But money coming into those funds, how is it determined what gifts?
Right now,
Whatever come in, go to which?
right. So the auditorium fund has largely not seen a lot of gifts go into that one specifically, as far as I'm aware, in the recent past. It's very flexible, but it is also not super well funded.
But we anticipate more for the programming fund then?
We anticipate more for the programming fund because we are going to be specifically, or there is the intent that we would specifically be taking any excess funding every year and putting it toward that endowed programming fund. So whereas to date, what has happened is, okay, we raise $60,000. We spend that on the performance series, we get, let's just say 40 back. And it comes back to that fund. What I believe the intent would be is typically 40, or at least a portion of that 40 would be transferred at the end of the year when all the accounts are taken and put into the endowed fund. Again, this secures the funds, gives a different level of interest being raised, but you're also, so you're getting a pull off of that every year. It's just you have to add to that principal in order to grow that pull every year. So in theory, as time goes on, you're getting more and more pull off the endowed fund in addition to whatever you fundraise to help support the performance series. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It definitely locks in those funds is basically.
So it comes into the non-endowed fund. All of the fundraising efforts go into the non-endowed.
All of that.
Yes, then we use it, right, or contribute back, and then after that, we look at the pool and say, we have $60,000, do we want to put some into the endowed fund, and as Andrew said, lock it away and earn better interest, or do we want to have X amount in here for future?
And those decisions are made by the board with commission approval, or just by?
First, the board would make a recommendation and you all would approve.
So if we're transferring to the endowed fund, that needs commission approval before it's finalized.
So what kind of, is there a time frame on when these, in the appendix A there, when it reaches 2 million, certain thing happens? Is there a?
Those are
10-year thing?
recommendations by the current SYCA board. That is not a set in stone amount. That is not something that is written in a specific policy. So as the board changes over time, maybe they have a different vision or a different goal amount.
But it's expected to be a decade or more.
It's going to take
It will take quite some time. to get there.
Yes.
Unless we have some amazing gifts from somebody, and that's always possible, right? Like things happen, but But,
Yes, it's going to take a long
It's
time to
expected to
build
take
to
a
that
long
point
time.
where it's basically self-sufficient is their goal, right? That we have enough money that it can support itself and continue on the performance series or programming in general.
Thank you. Thank you. And
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Sturgis City Commission approve the Sturgis Young Center for the Arts Foundation Funds policy as presented.
So we have a motion
Second.
and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the Sturgis City Commission approve the advised charitable agency fund agreement with the Sturgis Area Community Foundation, establishing the SYCA Endowed Programming Fund with a transfer of $136,549 from the SYCA Programming Fund, non-endowed, and authorize the city manager to sign all necessary documents.
contingent,
have a
please.
motion.
Contingent, please, on,
Contingent.
on final attorney review.
Contingent on city attorney. review.
Final
Okay.
attorney.
Okay. You got that, Ken?
I do.
So we have a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. All right, next moving on to commissioner and staff comments. We'll start with you, Sadie.
None for tonight. Thanks.
Mr. Rhodes,
Nothing. Thank you.
Tyler?
I'm gonna tag team with Andy in a few minutes.
Okay. Patrick? Will? Anything from our fine police officer back there? Styles?
Two things. I don't know how many of you may have heard over the weekend or within the last week or so that former Assistant City Manager Todd Campbell is now the city manager in St. John, Michigan. Those of you that know him or remember him, you may want to send him a message and wish him the best. As he's received a lot of those comments with the last week or so. Second, I guess, question either for Ken or maybe Andrew. Did I miss, was there a date set on when you may announce or reach out to the candidate today to see if he's going to become interim city manager? Is that still in flux?
That would be a question for the city commission. Yeah.
Okay.
That hasn't been
Making
decided
sure
yet.
who
Yeah.
was- Who I should ask them, so. I guess that question is to the city commission.
Still in flux right now. About when he's gonna start.
Is he
Well,
starting or is he hired?
Well, I mean,
Say either one.
yeah,
it's gonna be a
think,
second interview.
Okay, that's what
Yeah,
I'm
I
trying to
think we're probably
clarify.
trying to figure out if we're gonna have a second interview and then go from there, or what's the wish of the commission?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, I had that under staff comments myself. So thank you, Mike.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
No, so are
How would you
we,
like to-
how are we gonna move?
How would you like to proceed? You've had an interview. Would you like to bring something back to the next commission meeting and deliberate on that interview? Would you like city attorney and city clerk to reach out and discuss terms? Sounds like he's offered a draft contract from his time in Adrian.
I'd like to look at the terms first,
Yeah, I would like to summarize
Yeah.
that for the commission so you could kind of see
Yeah, so we
what,
could see what,
what he wants.
yeah.
Right.
Obviously he didn't agree that he would accept those, but obviously it's a pretty strong indication of kind of where he's at on it, on a cursory look. So what I'll do is I'll try to summarize that and get a copy to the Ken, so we can get it out to the commission so everybody can kind of get a understanding of what is in that contract.
And I think you did hear, certainly haven't looked at this, but snow wise, if he doesn't want to drive home, would in essence, the city pay for him to stay at the Hampton or something like that, for the evening.
okay.
And I think in
All right.
here, you were asking, sorry, Commissioner Wiki about his hours. He had laid that out in this, so that might help answer some of
Yeah.
those.
So you'll
maybe
email us something this week, or?
Well, I'll try to get it summarized and Ken will, I'll go through the city clerk and have
Okay,
him send that
and
out.
then you'll
but yeah.
email us, Ken?
Yeah, I'm happy to email you. And
Okay.
yeah, I think, in just speaking with him, his intention is to be here.
If we, you get the summary out to us, because we're running out of time. Is this something that we can
reply
do
back.
via email saying that?
No,
Without
but
official action to say
but-
bring him back for the second week, in next meeting kind of thing?
I think you could direct us to bring him back. I mean,
I don't know about anybody else. I don't need to deliberate on the hireability.
No, but
I don't need to hear it back for a second meeting.
understanding
Contract.
his contract and whatever.
Maybe.
Then I guess it's something that's important to me.
Right, no doubt.
The next meeting is July 8th.
Right. So, I mean, I think the reality is I can get you, I mean, or you can get you copies of the contract. I mean, I'd probably do somebody to get the highlights of it, of kind of how it's structured, hourly rate, hours worked.
well,
kind of the-
TJ, given what Commissioner Miller is saying, could they debate now again on Doug contingent upon reaching
That's
Terms?
essentially
Terms.
what I'm proposing I am ready to do.
I agree.
I was thinking the same thing.
Well, it's not like we have a lot of options.
Let me get straight.
Unless
what it
you
is
would
that-
like to summarize the contract before we
No.
get to that point.
No, I mean, if the commission wants to direct my office to put together and start negotiating a contract because the commission feels that this is a candidate they want to move forward with, I can let you know kind of what's out there and start working. Obviously, the commission would have to have some type of feedback to me on what you're looking for, salary or, payment wise expectation, hourly wise expectation, after you get a chance to see, because I believe what I garnered out of this was that it was 48 hours every 2 weeks that he was in the office, so that's 24 hours a week. However, that's something the commission could say, well, we want more, we want 60 hours every two, or whatever the commission wants. That's something that I think will go back and forth on terms. But that would have to be done and debated at a notice meeting and a hearing, or at a meeting, just because of the fact that you would be deliberating to a final decision.
I know he did say to me, I mean, his thought would be, and I mean, we could check with Sadie that he would be a city employee, as opposed to a contract. I think he said something like that.
This is a contractor. So this
Okay.
is set up as an independent
That's
contractor.
a 1099?
So again, I think that's something where there may be conversations that need to be had with the candidate as well to make sure that we flush out exactly what his expectations are, what he is looking for. Just because he was a contractor under this independent contractor doesn't mean that that's his desire under this contract. So,
Yeah, I will say he never answered my question directly as far as how many hours he was comfortable with, but it sounded like he would be in all the way.
That's what he said.
And then now,
He
Court-
stated 24/7.
yeah.
He answered.
So
Again, this is
And
a contract.
this is the contract he had with Albion.
that's
So
Albion, which would be a lot further
it's
drive for him, I'm guessing.
It's a template,
Yeah.
I believe.
right, I don't.
Not a current, but a previous contract. that
There's
he had,
previous
right?
that he had.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
This
not
would have
something that we're in
been,
competition with.
Correct.
Yeah,
Albion
But that gives you a good idea as to what he wants and what he's looking for, because he
And the
gave it
structure-
to him.
correct, and it gives, I think what this also does is it gives the city commission an idea of what other areas and other, communities, how they structure their temporary, interim manager, with that. And again, if you wanted the clerks to reach out, check references and other things, that could be done too prior to the next meeting. On final, these are all things, or you can, it's really up to the 8 of you how you want to proceed at this point.
I'd like to see something on the agenda to offer a contract at the next meeting.
And that can be put on
I mean,
the agenda.
that's, why delay it?
So,
I guess I'm just wondering if we, in order to approve a contract or something at the next meeting, how do we get to that point with them? How much can they say
That
here?
was my question.
Well,
You
so
know,
I can
Deliberation
tell
we
you,
have outside of this meeting.
under this contract, from what, again, and I
Yeah.
was skimming it, trying to, pay attention while he was talking, or after he gave it to me. That he billed $80 an hour and a minimum, requires a minimum of at least 48 hours every 2 weeks. So, did I read that correctly, Sadie?
Yeah, and I,
Yes,
and
so-
mileage.
And
I had
plus
mileage.
and mileage. So
Was what I-
if this term went for over a year, it'd be 6-figure contract, for essentially somebody working 24 hours a week. Again, the mileage from, I've not put it in the map to see how far it is. However, you can pay the mileage. I think Ken talked about putting them up in a hotel for inclement weather or natural disaster or anything, those types of things. So that's kind of the dollar amount that he has thrown out there. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need benefits.
Right.
Yeah.
He does
So,
not.
I mean, at this
That was
point,
stated in here as well.
it does change things if he's asking to become an employee of the city as opposed to an independent contractor of the city. So that would be a little bit different structure. So we may want to clarify that with the candidate.
Could you clarify it with me tomorrow?
I can. Again, he stated that to me, but I wasn't doing a lot of negotiating or anything like that. He just thought that would be the case and mentioned no benefits. I don't know what the difference, what exactly that means, employee or contractor.
Correct. So if you want to talk numbers and get into details, my suggestion would be we do that in a closed session to as far as negotiation of a contract. These are broadcast on YouTube. You did indicate he watches them on YouTube, so good practice would be not to show all our hands, all of our hand as to what the commission's willing to pay, because we know how that would work. However,
TJ, does it make, I don't know if the commission's prepared, but does it make any sense to go into closed session today to discuss what they would, well, I don't know.
Does does closed session need to be advertised?
no, it doesn't need to be
No.
advertised. It can go in for that purpose. However, I guess what I'm hearing is the commission is comfortable moving forward with extending an offer, which would have to be probably by motion, contingent upon a successful negotiated contract and agreement.
And then we'd be doing that between the July 8 and July 22 meeting. Or you saying
We're doing
saying
it
you're
today.
proposing that tonight?
Do it tonight.
Or we could come back on the July 8th meeting in closed session, that we could discuss it. The commission could give the parameters upon which it deems to be an acceptable agreement after we get feedback from the candidate of what he is looking for. Because what I don't want to do is go into a negotiation assuming it's going to be a subcontractor or and then his desire is to become an employee or vice versa. So I think a little bit of clarity may be needed from there, as well as the hours, I think, can be clarified with Ken. But
I guess,
So you're saying just
do
do
we,
some-
well, do we have clarification, I've heard,
Consensus.
do you
We
have
have
consensus that, under reasonable circumstances, you would be comfortable having Doug Terry as your interim city manager? Does the city
Yeah,
commission
yes.
have consensus with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Unless the city clerk wants to do it.
Yeah. So,
No answer.
so
Okay, that's the answer.
I think
So
if the commission has consensus that Doug fits the profile, obviously, if he wants $1 million, you're probably, that's not going to work. But I guess how do we get to, if they want to settle something on the 8th, or can we,
well, it depends how much information you get back from them between now and then, so that when you get into the 8th meeting, we would have an idea and be able to come to an agreement.
If he wants to work will he work 40 hours, or does he want to work less than 40 hours? So we have some idea of the cost.
I would suggest that if the commission were to make a motion to approve moving forward with the hiring of an interim city manager, contingent upon successful negotiated, agreement, or mutually agreed upon agreement, and then move to go into closed session tonight to discuss the terms, to give us an outline of parameters, we'd be in a much better situation come July 8th to be able to make a an affirmative decision, or you could make an affirmative decision that night, moving forward. So if
Okay.
there's a motion, you say yes, contingent upon that, then I would have the authority to move forward, you know, Mr. Rhodes, get the follow-up, then we could begin that process. And then potentially have a proposed final agreement on the 8th for review and acceptance.
I certainly think there's value in having more discussion tonight and not waiting.
Not waiting, yeah, absolutely.
Determine what we're gonna be doing moving forward. So I would agree on discussing what our expectations may be in closed sessions.
Well, now-
Share.
Yes, I would agree. I mean,
But Ken would have.
Yeah.
There was a question from somebody.
Yeah, I was just wondering, are we still going to ask for references?
He's got.
Oh, yeah.
He's got-
He
gave them.
Yeah, he gave them.
Yeah, we haven't, he's provided a number of references. I can tell you that everyone we've heard from has been quite positive. He's been doing this quite a long time. So obviously, if we can check references, if someone were to have something, we would bring that back to the commission. If it was something not positive, you know.
and correct me if I'm wrong, majority of the time, it's always contingent upon a successful background check.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure,
Right.
absolutely.
I mean, the last couple times this commission has made decisions like that, that was a part of the contingency as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
we'll just finish up staff comments and then see who,
no, we need the motion. I mean, I suppose, yes, you can finish up staff comments, but the motion to move forward with that contingent upon, a mutually agreed upon agreement would have to be made in open session. Then there'd need to be a motion to go into closed session to determine the compensation portion of that. Now, for instance, some of the areas in this could be discussed in open session if you wanted, as far as how many hours a week the commission is anticipating. However, that is somewhat tied to the compensation component. And so it may, in my opinion, it would lend to the closed session discussion.
okay. So go ahead and finish the commissioner comments, and then if there's a motion, we can do it before we.
Yeah, well, if there's if the commission is not anticipating, again, this is your call, you're on, you know, you guys make your decision, but if you're not gonna have any action after the closed session, yeah, you could get whatever comments out now for people present, and then, make the motion at the end of comments and move into closed session at that time.
Okay. Anything further, TJ?
No, I've got nothing tonight.
Andrew?
Yeah, on your desk was a table that just shows modified times for request for Sturgis Fest Parade. I believe I had sent out email. I talked with the chamber about modifying their activities on Friday the 26th for the parade. We typically have a double closure that night. An earlier closure just in the core of downtown, and then the larger closure for the parade further into the evening. What we've talked to the chamber about, given kind of some of the storm impacts and things that are kind of still in play, is moving one closure, doing the parade earlier in the evening. That would extend the closure of US 12 from Franks Avenue to Centerville from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. That would be the request time. Parade would start at 7. More than likely be wrapped up by 9. The rest of these, we had some time shifts in our temporary no parking, as well as the no through traffic on North Nottawa. And then we're also proposing closing John Street and doing temporary no parking there to kind of shift where the car show is. That's going to take place in the GT Independence parking lot, as well as on John Street. So just wanted to get formal commission approval of that as we look to adjust permitting and everything. So
You need a motion for that, or?
I would like a motion to approve the amended request for Sturgis Fest as presented.
Okay,
So moved.
so we have a motion
Second.
and support, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So move.
Thank you. Secondly, want to give a lot of thank yous out. Obviously, we've had some big impacts to the community here over the last couple of weeks. When it comes to the storms, first and foremost to all our staff all across the city, but of course, particularly the electric department, DPS, police, fire, everybody who responded, our administrative staff, customer service who were dealing with calls. I will be remiss in missing somebody, but it really is an entire team that addresses these types of things and makes them possible. A lot of hours committed, a lot of time, a lot of effort, long hours, big things happening. So big thank you to staff, of course. Also want to thank our mutual aid partners that helped with electric restoration. We had 15 communities, over 50 people that were here helping restore power. I know I got to go on WWMT and give the good news that it was might be a week before some people had power restored, and we were well back before that week was up because of the fine efforts of both our department and our mutual aid partners. So shout outs to Coldwater, Union City, Lansing, Traverse City, Sebring, Lowell, Niles, Bay City, Chelsea, Hillsdale. There's a cooperative from the Thumb area, Escanaba, Cherryland Electric Cooperative, Gladstone, and Marquette, that all sent crews to us and helped us out over the course of that time. I often get a chance to tell you about when we're going out and helping with mutual aid down in Florida or up north with some of the winter storms. This is us getting paid back for those things. And, the municipal electric utilities are a tight knit group, and we rely on mutual aid, and so does the rest of the group. So, big shout out to all those partners. Also want to thank United Way. They're part of our response team, and we're with several meetings, provided some very necessary support services through the outage. County and their emergency manager too was involved in a lot of those things and talking through different things with us here locally. So just a big shout out to all those people, and of course to the community itself. It's never fun to have services disrupted. We still have cleanup activities going on. We still have things that are kind of the knock-on impacts of these types of things that we'll be feeling for some time. And thank you for your patience, and thank you for understanding what is a lot of effort on the part of our crews. So, Tyler, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I can give a brief breakdown on, we're still gathering things, so we don't have all the, down to the fine details. But, I know when I came in Thursday night, I saw 3,800 outages on our screen. I heard from our meter supervisor, he saw over 4,000. So that's 4,000 out of roughly 7,300, give or take, meters. So over half our customers. So city staff was able to get our transmission line back on and 3 substations before morning. So that number dropped significantly down to around 2,400. And from that point on, mutual aid started to arrive, and now we're into backyards. Real tedious work, backyard work, a lot of it. So we were able to pick up 400 or 500 customers a day with the help of our mutual aid partners. So without them, we wouldn't. We'd still be working, which we are actually. We're still changing poles now. Street light poles, they're the last thing we work on, and the guys are actually they're still changing one tomorrow, I heard of. So we're still picking the pieces up, literally all over town. You'll still see it. We ask that the customers be patient, let us get to all of our spots. There may be stuff in backyards still, but we'll be around to pick it all up. So we appreciate it. Everybody that helped us, city staff, even the public. I've never worked a storm where we didn't have disputes after 4 or 5 days of power being out. It's a testament to our community that they let the guys come and do the work. Nothing but appreciation for that. So hopefully we don't have another one, but it seems like we're getting these quite often. But hopefully that's it for the year at least.
I was gonna say 3 in the last,
Right.
what, 4 or 5 years is plenty.
Right.
We don't need another one.
I need sleep now. These 16-hour days. It takes several days to get back to normal, so that's why we have young guys out there now, so I can show them what to do, and I get wore out quicker, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful job, thank you.
Other than that, just remember, we do have other Sturgis Fest activities going on, parade. We got the dinner tomorrow, family night and other events, so those continue. That's all I have for the moment.
Commissioner Ends?
I do, and let me make sure I get these names right. So along with that storm, I have some friends that were out west, and they had a dog sitter at their home for their 2 dogs. So we're on Grand, and fortunately everyone's okay, but their alarm went off for the carbon monoxide. And in the morning, it happened at night, like midnight. I think it was Friday night. I can't remember. Anyway, I got the call from out west saying the one dog was not in good shape. It was starting to have effects. So I had the dog sitter, and obviously on the way to Kalamazoo to the emergency, I have to tell you, she couldn't say enough about the fire department and the police department. So I asked her to find out the names. And she said it was a fireman, Josh Clark, 2 police officers, and one was Josh Edgington and Alex Cleaver. And she could not say, she said it was way beyond the emergency. Just how they went out of their way. Obviously, she was not in a great state, and, saved of mine. And she said, I think it was the fireman, it might have been the policeman that held one of the dogs. And, it was a tough moment. And again, I just wanted to make sure that shout out for those people that were on call. And we're fortunate she's okay. It's just nice to hear.
Commissioner Boyd? Commissioner Whitman?
A couple things. The tree that's on the corner of South Street and South Nottawa that's like just hanging in the balance is that on anybody's radar? Because it just, to me, it looks like if something would happen to the tree that's kind of holding it from falling into the street, that could be a bad problem.
That tree actually, I believe it was Wednesday, actually started to have impact because we had the road closed before the storm on that tree. I know they went back and they cut on it since then. I know our forester's been out there to evaluate it. I don't believe he would have, because he was the one that made sure we closed the road on Wednesday. I don't believe he would have allowed us to open the road unless he's evaluated it and made sure that it was at least stable until they're able to come back. But that's going to be,
so it is on the list.
It is absolutely on the
Okay.
list. It
Okay.
has absolutely been evaluated, and there will be more work done on that before this is all over.
Okay. I do just have one comment as far as the interview with Doug. I enjoyed listening to him. I feel confident in his skill. I do believe there was one comment he made that might have been just a little bit out of turn just because he doesn't know all the details. I do want to say I appreciate Commissioner Miller and Mullins for fighting for accountability amongst the commissioners. And so I just want to say I stand with them as well. That's it.
Commissioner Miller?
Yeah, various individuals already took the words out of my mouth and well-placed words. I wanted to extend gratitude. We try to teach our children to have such an attitude, to help them remember. We talk about an attitude of gratitude. And I think it's important to have that, to have patience, to be kind, especially in times of crisis like what we had. And there were many neat things to see, both just our micro neighborhood on our block. We had people coming together and sharing contact information. I was sweeping the street at 12:30 a.m. that night and doing the same thing the next morning. And we had neighbors helping us. We had friends and family help us. And I think it's important to point out, this was a very quick wind that stormed in. It lasted for a very short period of time. And after the wind cleared, it was mere minutes before I saw the lights of our city trucks, both electric and I believe it was fire. It was mere minutes before I saw lights responding, and those were radiating through the moisture that we could see. And I had great respect for how fast and how responsive everybody was on the team, and the absolutely crazy hours they've been working. Tyler, you and your crew, but the other crews that you mentioned, Andrew, I've tried to thank everybody every time I see them on the street, on the sidewalk. And then the mutual aid, like you mentioned, Andrew, I reached out to the Upper Peninsula legislators that I know to say a big thank you, because I had to do a double check and see, did I see Gladstone? Yes, I did. I saw Gladstone, and so I extended my thanks to them. It was neat to see city crews from here and other mutual aid crews working side by side like a team, like they've been doing it for a long time, and they haven't. In our case, Cherryland Electric Cooperative was working on Cherry Street, and I got to talk to the Cherryland guys for a little bit, and I thought they do that on purpose, but it's pretty neat. It has just been, the storm was absurd, but the effort that responded to it was even more incredible. So a big thank you to all involved. It was amazing to see, and I'm very, very grateful. Thank you.
Commissioner Bird,
Nothing, I thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
Excuse me. I would also like to thank everybody that worked on the storm and clean up, just everybody involved in that. And tomorrow is Pecan Sandy Day. It's also National Hydration Day. So go out and have some milk and cookies tomorrow. That's it. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Mullins.
Quick comments, one for Tyler. You talk about the young guys and all that stuff. First of all, I'm just gonna say ditto to all the comments here and not to labor it anymore, but I feel the same way as everybody else here has shown gratitude to our city staff for the work that they did over the last week. But you talked about the young guys and you need rest, or whatever, you don't have the whatever it takes to do this anymore. But I've seen you on that track out there, and I disagree. My power was out for 60 hours, and what it gave me, what I find funny is that my refrigerator got so clean because everything's out of it, and there was a chance to scrub it, so it looks like a brand new fridge. And that was one good thing that came out of this. And I got to purge all the crud that I didn't need anymore. So there was good in that. And another thing, I left on Monday morning, headed out east, and I must have passed 100. I swear, it's 100 electric trucks from different companies. None of which were in Sturgis that I recall any of the names being on. They were heading out east somewhere. I don't know if they were going from mutual aid or going back home from helping in this area, in Indiana or elsewhere, but hundreds of convoys of trucks, hundreds of trucks in total, but convoys of 5 or 10 from each utility or whatever. So it was really impressive to see. And not that I drive really fast, but they don't drive fast. So I was able to pass just a ton of them on the way out there. So that was really cool and impressive to see. I guess I wanted to ask about an update as well from the city attorney on a couple of things if we can. I know we had a few FOIA requests that had come in. Have those been completed at this point in time?
Some are being worked on, correct. So some of them I think are, again, just sort of staff process am I with consulting my office. I don't prepare or send out FOIA responses. I know they're being worked on. And there's some that were prepared for review. Others I think are still being disseminated out to departments that may or may not, that may have the information that they're looking for. So oftentimes they'll try to figure out where that information may be, send a request, then that comes in, I believe. They're being worked on. Beyond that, I can't.
I know it's something strange and unfamiliar to us all, and I just want to make sure that nothing else is needed and things aren't being held up for any reasons that we might be able to help with at all.
I don't think so.
No?
I think we're good from the commission standpoint, and Sarge, to this point, and I think we're close.
Okay. Great. I guess that's it. I've got we started that whole process of the Miller Johnson with the investigation. I'm sure people have been reached out to already. I'll have my turn tomorrow because I was out of town and was unable to hook up, but I'm hoping that everything comes together real quickly for that and that stuff gets done with a quickness. I would hope. I don't know what kind of pace they work at typically on things like this, but I'll try to find out more tomorrow from my interview. And I'm looking forward to that. But besides that, Dalai Lama once said, "My religion is simple. My religion is kindness. So let's all be religiously kind." Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I'd like to echo the same thing what Andrew and most of the commission said about our staff. They're amazing. They seem like they got us back up right away. I got a lot of compliments from a lot of individuals as me walking through the city. Also want to take time to thank the mayor from Three Rivers. She called up a couple times checking up on us. Steve Caro also called a couple times, several times, and provided some information from nonprofits that actually come out and help remove trees from homes and stuff at no charge. I passed that on to Kelly and the emergency director. Seems like they were already talking, but I don't recall the names. I even shared that with Andrew. I had the privilege to work with Kelly Hostetler and the United Way team and all the volunteers that they have on several different dates, specifically June 13th and 14th, being out at Village Manor, feeding the folks there or anyone who needed a warm meal and water. It was pretty cool to see exactly what the United Way does. True asset in the community. I can't thank Kelly enough and her volunteers. It was good to see the Morgan Olson big blue truck out there as well. But just a lot of people just trying to help other people. It was amazing to see. We had the First Presbyterian Church let us borrow the portable showers. So on the 14th, we had showers hookups. I was there at 9 o'clock to meet DPS to hook that trailer up, only to find that we had no LP gas. So Kelly being Kelly, she's very, very well connected, called, I think it's Nottawa Gas in Centerville, and needed a volunteer to take these 30-pounders tanks to get filled. I volunteered, went down, drove down, got those filled up. Came back, we got the portable showers running. It was great to see all those folks out there, but it was very heartwarming for me to see my own kids out there, a 16-year-old and a 23-year-old out there rolling up their sleeves to help people in need. That was my biggest takeaway. My daughters Emma and Isabel manned the portable showers. We had a lot of folks in there taking advantage of that. As we were preparing meals for those that were hungry, and we were giving out a bunch of bottled water. On the 19th, I volunteered with several other individuals at Radiant Life Church, handing out food. And I can tell you, I haven't worked in 20 years. And my job that day was to fill 2 cases of bottled water per vehicle. The youngster that was with me was a white pigeon firefighter. After about the first hour, because it was just go, go, go. He's like, hey, you take the in car, I'll take the out car. I'm like, is it something else about dragging? And he's like, yeah, well, I don't want to say that, but it was amazing. I think we did over, I don't have the final numbers. I had to leave for a meeting. I think we had like about 175 people come out. It was great to be out there and help people in need. And again, my girls showed up to help as well. So I was very taken back by them at their young age wanting to volunteer and give back. But I've never had the opportunity to work with Kelly Hostetler and the United Way. And I'm telling you what, it is an awesome service to have, not just in our city, but in our county. Because the work that they do is amazing. And the part that struck with me the most was they want to be out there. They are all hands on deck. I mean, they have the passion, the heart to drive, and they don't stop. They just have to be activated, and they will go and do what they do best. And it was awesome to see that. A big shout out to Kelly Hostetler and United Way and all the volunteers that helped over the last couple of weeks. And with that, we'll entertain a motion to.
We need a couple of things. So I'm gonna go back on something I said. I went back to review for the purpose of going into closed session. I do not feel comfortable the commission going into closed session for this purpose, because the negotiation of an employment contract specifically states a collective bargaining unit. We're not he is not a collective bargaining unit. We're not, and therefore it has to be at that's the requirement for the contract. There can be a provision under which appointment to a public office or a public officer, which he would be. However, he has to request that closed session. He did not. So at that point, this commission, I don't feel comfortable to be appropriate to go into closed session based on those terms. I can tell you, I'm comfortable giving you a brief summary of what his contract that he provided here is. And the commission could give direction to move forward, negotiating terms of the contract, similar or in line with that would still give this commission latitude at the next meeting before finalizing, if the commission is comfortable with that.
Sure.
I see a question.
I don't know how this fits in the timeline or the strategy, and I don't think this ought to be discussed in closed session. The days that Andrew is with us are precious in more ways than one. Perhaps would it be fitting for him to begin under some role? I know from a practical standpoint, if I'm talking about a very small thing, oh yeah, let's just overlap a few days, but we're talking about a very significant role that you're either in or you're not. But I would see the value if Mr. Terry is willing. Any hour he could possibly overlap with Andrew, and I don't care if we call him a special assistant to the city manager, I don't care what you call the role. Any hour that he could overlap with Andrew, I think would be extremely valuable. And I'm just thinking on the fly out loud. I would love for Mr. Terry. We have all sounded off a fair consensus from what I'm reading that, yeah, we're looking to do this. I'm speaking up for what I'm envisioning as a very beneficial timeline if he is able to overlap anything with Andrew's timeline, which stops July 24. I don't know how others feel about that. I would love to overlap him as much as possible.
That was another question that he never directly
Yeah,
answered
and
for me. So
I guess I would say, and Doug would have to speak for himself, but I don't know how long he would feel he would need with Andrew. Okay. again, I'm not going to speak for Doug, but whether or not, there's two trains of thought, more time or less time has merit in different ways. And I think we'd have to understand from Doug how long he thinks is necessary to overlap with Andrew.
I just don't think you could possibly have too much, because to the point somebody raised, we haven't had an assistant for a lot of years, too many years. And any time that we could get them to overlap, in my opinion, would be beneficial. I don't think we can have too much, even if he started tonight. And I'd be willing to hire him at the same, whatever the commission decides as far as pay for the interim role. I'd be fine at hiring for the same pay for, again, call him special assistant to the city manager. I would be fine hiring for that at the same pay, again, overlapping however much we can get. That's, I think the benefit of it could not be overstated.
Agreed.
I believe that'll probably be Mr. Terry's recommendation, what he'd like to do, so.
I mean, and I'm just.
I would say just call and get more information from him.
Well, I think that would all be part of negotiations, as far as start dates go, when the contract becomes effective. So I think that can definitely be discussed as part of that when we come back on the 8th.
I'm simply stating, we have a current mutual separation agreement that states, unless other circumstances were granted, leaves wiggle room, has stated his stoppage date as July 24.
Sure.
And I'm just saying, I'd rather than saying, well, Mr. Terry will start on July 27, Monday at 8 a.m. I'd like to overlap, and you can't both be in the same role. However, we have to figure out the terminology. I'd like them to overlap in an official working capacity, not just.
And it may be beneficial for some contemplation for the current city manager to determine whether or not.
Absolutely.
That is more of a hindrance or help to him as he's trying to transition out of the role as well. So I think that's something that can be discussed and talked about as part of the negotiation. And I think we'll have more of a better position come back on the 8th to determine.
I just wanted to state my desire for that negotiation process. That's one factor that I would like to be heavily considered. And again, I know my desire. Yes, I'll respect the wishes of Andrew and Mr. Terry and what you guys negotiate and work on.
So I guess I'll boil it down as quick as I can, kind of through this contract that he had provided. So he is, according to what he was for the city of Albion, which is 2024 contract, is very clearly stated he was an independent contractor for the city of Albion. He received no benefits as far as retirement, sick pay, vacation pay. He's earned an hourly rate of $80 per hour and was anticipated to work a minimum of 48 hours every 2 weeks. So, and the additional hours on top of that would need to be approved by the city commission. And at that time, their clerk treasurer maintained a working log for the purpose of payment. He was, I think the mayor asked and confirmed in this, a 1099 employee. And it laid out here in this contract that on days that he commuted to, he would also be included IRS mileage rate, which would include every day that he was at the city, 1 round trip. So while using his own personal vehicle in this contract, so while working, he got mileage. That mileage also included his to and from his home to the city and back. So obviously, if he could drove to the city, then drove to Sturgis Dam, and around that mileage on top of it. Moving on from that, it also talked about he did not, it was very clear that obviously there were no benefits. He vested no rights with this, with any type of retirement pension or any thing like that. Under this contract, the city of Albion did provide him with a cell phone and a computer to be utilized strictly for the purpose of performance of his duties, and was clearly still retained as property of the city. So there's some other legal language in there that I don't think really would be a sticking point here as far as non-assignability, which would make sense as the personal nature of the contract. an indemnification clause, which Andrew has, Mike Hughes had. So if he's named in the lawsuit, as an officer agent of the city, while performing the duties, the city would indemnify, hold him harmless unless the acts alleged are a gross negligence or intentional criminal act, which is fairly common in these contracts. The governing law would still be the state of Michigan, so I didn't see anything in here. Real crazy. I think the big thing would be the scope of work and hours. The scope of work, what it looks like here, and I've never reviewed Albion's charter, but they kind of pulled similar to our charter and pulled like we did with Andrew's contract, as well as Mike Hughes, will pull language out of our city charter and make sure that it also the language of the contract would indicate he's responsible pursuant to the city charter and procedures adopted by the Sturgis City Commission. And I would feel comfortable starting with that template, moving forward, not to exceed any of those numbers, moving, except for if the commission feels that the hours need to be more than 48, we could negotiate that as well.
Sounds good to me.
Sadie, what's the IRS mileage rate right now?
72.
He's roughly 59 miles away, so that'd be about 118 miles a day.
And he was the
He
closest
comes to the
candidate.
city, so
When he comes to the city, I mean, unless we got a company car somewhere.
So it'd be $100 round trip.
roughly. So, the commission-
So I think we're good to have Ken.
Well,
reach
do
out.
we want to do a motion?
I'd feel more comfortable if the commission makes a motion, to work on negotiations,
Inquire.
Extending an offer contingent, or, move forward with the hiring of, him as Mr. Terry as the interim city manager contingent upon mutual agreed upon interim manager employment agreement.
So
To be
moved.
negotiated
So we have a
presented.
motion.
Subject to background
Yeah.
check and
Yep.
reference check, background and reference
Yep,
check.
and contingent upon. the
So we have a
successful-
When will we
motion.
negotiate these things with him? July 8th?
No,
Ken will get started now.
Negotiations be
yeah,
here.
we're gonna start.
Well, have we given him what to negotiate?
Well, no, but
He's
let's
got the
take care of
template.
this motion
Okay.
and then we can keep going. So
So we have a motion.
who made the motion?
I did.
That's what I thought.
So Marv made the motion.
Support.
Rick did the second. All in favor?
I
Opposed? So move.
also move that we extend an offer for a title to be determined contingent upon negotiations for employment as a role other than city manager prior to July 24th. Again, contingent upon negotiations by the city attorney, Mr. Cook and Mr. Terry.
I'm not sure you would need to have that.
Yeah.
We can negotiate that into this employment agreement to where it could be defined if the desire was that he would start 2 weeks before, whatever that is, it could be spelled out in the employment agreement that indicates start date would be here and we works, in whatever role, and then city management duties would take over after July 24th. So we can put that in there through the negotiation without a separate motion or directive.
Okay. I withdraw that motion then.
So I guess, are there any terms? I don't know how much we,
I think the big thing is hours.
Mhm.
How many hours does the city commission?
Because in the Albion, it says minimum of 48.
Minimum
I think
48.
that's what, so
So
I
he's
think
saying
you
that's
have
the
to
least amount
have,
he wants to work.
well, I think you can have a minimum, just like we have with police and fire. You've got minimum staffing and then you've got, here's what we normally do. So,
I mean,
Just a
again,
minute.
I don't know where that came from. We weren't part of those negotiations.
Right.
whether he wanted more and they only wanted a 48-hour employee, and so they scaled back what they were wanting. So, you know, and also too, this was a discussion, the amount of time, you know, that it's not to be a remote job. Obviously, I say that I think everybody here works somewhat remote, even if their job's not remote, because you're on your phone and you're doing things in the middle of the night if you get a call. However, that's something I think too, the commission has expressed the desire early on that the person be in the city while working and performing, so we could put terms that to all extent possible, the hours work shall be, you know, in the city.
The city hall or whatever.
Well, and he also talked about how, I mean, his goal is to transition us into finding a permanent person, so, and leaving the department heads running things as they should. And so does he really need to be here 40 hours a week? I mean, no, I wouldn't think so.
Well, maybe start.
Maybe not 40, but
No.
the hours that
Yeah.
we would be working would be wanting in city.
Right.
All those hours.
You could put a minimum, I mean, the way that's written, I think a minimum of 48, so if you work an 8-hour day, that's putting them in the city at least 3 days a week.
Yeah.
We can structure language, I can structure language that would accomplish that, but also not be so rigid to where if more is needed that.
You gotta come ask for permission.
Right,
He just
and
works.
so-
He just works it. Yeah.
You could put a minimum, but not to exceed,
Not to
anything
exceed.
exceeding X would require additional approval. by the
Approval, yeah.
commission. So.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
That type of language, so you're not given a blank check, but you're also given the latitude for the work to get done that needs
Before
to
those
get done.
things get done. You got enough, Ken?
Do we need, yes?
We got enough.
You
Okay.
got enough? Okay.
TJ feels we got enough.
I mean, the big thing is gonna be start date, hours of work. And he may have, after this, he may have ideas and things that we don't know that will be part of the negotiation that he learned as being an interim city manager that he thought would be beneficial as well, so.
And certainly we can provide that to you.
Absolutely.
If he comes up with a whole proposal, we would
Yeah.
present
Yeah,
that to
for
you for
sure.
the July
Yeah,
8th,
yeah.
and then you can debate it.
Okay.
Would our plan then for July 8th be to have Doug back here, or is that not necessarily the case?
That's not necessary. I mean, you can have it back if you want, but you've authorized us to, or you've authorized the extending of an offer
Preliminary.
contingent upon a mutually agreed upon employment agreement, as well as a background check and references. So if those come back,
Well, the only contact Mr. Terry would have would be through Ken Rose.
correct, or myself for the purpose, correct, or myself for the purpose of the negotiated
Not
contract.
individual commission.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah,
we
definitely
good?
TJ. I
We
don't
good?
want to negotiate legal terms too much.
No, yeah. Was there the motion and everybody voted, so we're good?
We're
I
good?
think we're good.
You're good, TJ? You're
I'm
good?
Yes, sir,
I
thank you.
think so. Yeah.
All
so-
right, meeting adjourned.